Hello, and welcome to Lynwood Charlton Centre's GPS Home and School video series of skills for psychological recovery. Today we're going to review skill number 4 in the SPR series. My name is Patty Fraser, and welcome to our 4th webinar in a series of 6 highlighting skills for psychological recovery. The Guiding Partnerships and Solutions program here at Lynwood Charlton Centre wanted to bring our families out there that are experiencing all of this change and chaos. We wanted to be able to bring them a program that provides them with hands-on skills that they can start using right now before service. Maybe you're not even looking for service, but you're just having a really hard time managing right now, given the circumstances that we're living through. So this is a program that's brought to you that gives you access to all kinds of handouts. The program was brought here to the center and was written by trauma specialists from the National Center for Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder and the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. And like I mentioned, these are skills that don't need to be watched one after another. They can stand on their own. I encourage you to watch webinar 1 that gives you an overview of how the program works. And then all of the different webinars highlight a skill, each one, and you can take from that what you need. So you certainly don't need to worry if you haven't seen any of the other webinars. They do stand on their own, but feel free to go and check out the entire series. So, as a community mental health provider, we felt that it was important to bring you some hands-on, evidence-based, highly researched material that is not only for trauma, but also helps you to build resilience and build upon your strengths, gives you some hands-on tools right in the minute to use for everyday problem solving. Each session is short, approximately 15 minutes. And like I mentioned, today I'm going to introduce you to my colleague Heather, and she is going to review skill number 4. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Patty.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'll just start off by saying hi to everybody. My name is Heather Keegan, and I work here at Lynwood Charlton Centre. I'm here today to talk about skill number 4 in the SPR series. It is managing reactions. I think the first few minutes, I'll probably just focus mainly on the skill in a bit of detail. And then after that, I think Patty and I will chat a little bit just about kind of what these new reactions might look like in people's lives today and how people might be trying to manage them in a way that's actually doable, given all the other stress that's going on.
Perfect.
The goal overall really is to help people enhance their skills to calm any upsetting physical and emotional reactions you might be experiencing, and to learn new strategies to deal with reactions to stressful situations. So the rationale behind this is that many people following significant disruptions in our lives, certainly many of us have been experiencing that lately, and lots of people experience upsetting physical and emotional reactions on the heels of things like that. And those reactions can affect their mood, can wear down physical health, can cause problems in relationships, and can lead to problems making decisions or getting things done. And we know that learning skills to deal with distressing reactions can actually help protect physical and mental health. It can improve your self-confidence, and it can also help to reduce maladaptive efforts at coping. There's 3 particular steps associated with the skill of managing reactions. The first step is that we make an effort to really identify what reaction we're having. So we try to identify the distressing reactions as well as their triggers. The next step is that we teach or we learn ourselves skills to address distressing reactions. And the third step is that then once we've identified our reactions, we've recognized what might be triggering them, we've learned some skills, now we're going to put a plan into place to try and make efforts to manage a particular reaction so we can get better at generalizing this skill. I'm going to take a minute and almost just kind of define what an emotional reaction versus a physical reaction might be. So sometimes, we might see people telling us that, they're just noticing that they're feeling more angry or irritable, or maybe they're noticing that they're just sadder than they remember feeling before, or things that didn't used to make them feel quite as sad are now making them feel, significantly sad. Maybe they're feeling scared or worried. And then you can have a physical reaction as well that might accompany these. You might notice a tensing in your body. You might notice that your heartbeat is racing. You might notice that you're getting more headaches, or you're having upset stomach, or things that are just your body giving you clues that something doesn't feel right. And when you start to recognize that you're having those reactions, then we also want to think about what situations or thoughts seem to precede. So what seems to trigger these distressing emotional or physical reactions? So once we figure that out, we can start figuring out when to use some of these skills. Should also say that if you're already working with a mental health professional, there's a good chance that they can help you go through some of these steps together. But I want to stress that you don't need to have someone go through these steps with you. These are steps you can take on your own. It just requires that you be willing to kind of do some reflection and considering of what's going on in your own life, and trying to look at it from a fairly open-minded place, just to recognize that we're not labeling these feelings as being, you're a bad person because you're having them. We just need to recognize that we're having them in order to do something to manage them more effectively. So we're going to start talking about how we might learn to address the distressing reaction. For example, this would be step 2 of the plan. There's a lot of skills that can be learned. Some of these skills are more specific to the particular types of reaction that you're experiencing, and others can be more generalizable and are helpful in most situations. There are several handouts that SPR provides. Patty's made reference to that over the course of these webinars, how you can access those. And in this particular section, Managing Reactions, there are a lot of handouts that can be helpful to parents. Those handouts talk about specific types of reactions. So you might notice that you're having trouble sleeping, or that you're having more anger and irritability, coming out lately. Or maybe you're noticing that you're feeling grief associated with all of this disruption in your life recently. So there's handouts that actually talk about how to specifically try and help yourself with those types of reactions. Each handout is broken down into 2 sections that tells you what you should know about that reaction, and then also what you can do to help. I should also point out that there's handouts for parents that also offer ideas. If you notice that your child is perhaps struggling with their own reactions on the heels of this, significant life disruption that we've all experienced lately, there's handouts that will also guide parents through helping your child. So maybe you're noticing that your child is having sleep problems, or maybe that they're anxious and more clingy, or perhaps that they're having temper tantrums and they're acting out more in a way that you weren't noticing 6 months ago. There's handouts there that will walk you through how to potentially be helpful to your child, but there's also handouts geared towards parents who can recognize their own reactions and come up with some specific skills. Then, what we wanted to talk about as well is that there's one skill that's been really helpful regardless of the reaction that you're having. So one skill that's proven very helpful in calming is learning to breathe slowly and evenly. The way we breathe can calm our strong emotional and physical reactions and prevent them from getting worse. On page 105 of the handout section, there's actually an activity called breathing exercise, and SPR has done a really nice job of breaking it down into really small steps. So if you hear the idea of, do a breathing exercise and that sounds like too time consuming to you, I encourage you to give it a shot. There's very few steps. It's a great way to get yourself started on this idea of learning to control your breathing.
Heather, I have a really good idea.
What?
How about I walk people through the 4 steps? They're not long, and maybe as I'm reading the steps, you can practice, and I'll give viewers a few extra seconds to get themselves in position to listen to me and to walk through the steps together. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so I want everybody to find a comfortable space. Get yourself comfortable. Excellent. Once you're sitting in your comfortable position, I want you to take a slow, normal breath through your nose with your mouth closed and count to 5. Focus on extending your abdomen while you breathe slowly. Pause for 5 seconds. Exhale slowly through your nose or mouth to the count of 7. Say a soothing word to yourself as you breathe out, such as calm. Practice this exercise several times throughout the day, taking 10 to 15 deep breaths at each practice. That's as simple as it can be. I mean, there are so many models out there for how to do this kind of breathing, to slow your system down, to get more oxygen into your lungs and delivered to your organs in your body, to release the natural chemicals that we have in our brain. It's really about practicing the skill and building on the skill. So when you are heightened and the feelings are really, really super huge, you already have some practice under your belt and you can default to whichever breathing program works for you. I've heard lots of figure 8 counting. I've heard about counting 4, 6, 8. There's a lot of different ways to practice. So I encourage you to find what works for you and make it part of your daily activity. Even share it with the family. Maybe you all have a moment or two of deep breathing and you give it credit for what it needs credit for. So everybody understands how important it is.
Thank you, Patty. That was a good idea. I think it makes sense actually just to highlight as well that if people want to just start off with, you've given suggestions for different types of breathing techniques, and I think that's awesome. And I also just want to say that SPR, if you do choose to just use this breathing exercise that Patty just walked through, if you want to try it with your children, it's advisable that you do, but it just, the program notes that if you're doing it with kids, that instead of doing a breathe in count at 5, do a breathe in count to 3. And then do a breathe out count to 5 instead of 7. So for adults, it's a breathe in for 5, out for 7. For kids, it's a breathe in for 3, breathe out for 5. But that's just for this particular program, but I just wanted to highlight that if that's the one you're going to try first with your kids, just shorten it a little bit for their, littler lungs. And the last step in this, in managing reactions, is creating a plan. So if you've gone, if you've taken step 1 and you've gone through and figured out what your reactions are that are causing you the most distress, and you've figured out what some of the triggers are for them, and you've done the work to start building some skills for how to cope with these, maybe proactively or during the moment that you're having the reaction, then we get to step 3. And this is where we plan how will you use this skill and when will you practice it. So maybe it's controlled breathing that you're starting, but perhaps you want to give some thought to actually scheduling it into your day because you're trying to develop a new habit. Maybe it's not coming natural, but you need to create opportunities for it to become a habit. You're going to think ahead about situations where the skill might be useful and figure out how you might be able to incorporate it into those situations where you can use it. And then we're also going to really highlight the need to practice because practicing the skill is super important. The more you do it, the easier and more effective it becomes, and the more natural it will feel. I mean, any new habit can be really challenging at the beginning and can feel really uncomfortable because it's not something that we're used to doing. But the more you practice like anything else, the more it becomes a default reaction, and perhaps you won't even notice you're doing it, but it'll still be helping you to not get so elevated to the point where you feel like you can't productively cope with the situation that you're trying to cope with. So here's just an opportunity for Patty and I just to chat a little bit about, how we're seeing this affect people in real life right now as people are adjusting to this new reality we've been thrown into. We're all experiencing it certainly differently. We all came into this situation with different challenges or stressors that we were already dealing with, and now we've all got extra ones, that have been added here. I know myself, I'm hearing from clients that there's a lot more, they're noticing things differently about themselves than they may have noticed 6 months ago. I don't know if you're having that experience as well, Patty, but I'm hearing, people tell me that Maybe they're losing their patience quicker, or they're finding themselves really annoyed by certain phrases, that 6 months ago they would have laughed and said that, why would that bother me? But for example, the idea of homeschooling right now, I'm hearing a lot of parents say, if I hear the word homeschool one more time, my heartbeat is racing, or it makes me depressed because I feel like I can't be a good parent and a teacher. And like there's a lot of reactions in there. And if your child is asking you to help with homework, and even just hearing the word homeschool or homework is causing you to have this reaction, it's going to be challenging for you to respond to your child in the way you want to respond to them, because you're noticing that your own reaction is making you feel less capable of responding in a calm and productive way.
Absolutely, Heather. I think this pandemic has certainly isolated everybody enough that even daily skills that we used to just be able to do, sometimes they can be really, really tough. I've heard people talking about even keeping up on their hygiene, keeping up on their exercise, that we're feeling more and more tired and exhausted.
Yeah.
Learning new skills, we think about our parents who are juggling being with their kids 24/7 and working from home, or they have a loss of employment, which just adds tons of financial stress. So there's certainly a lot of emotions to manage during this difficult time the world is facing. But then there's also just, regular mental health and well-being that can sometimes be a challenge. Just managing the most basic of negative emotions is something that we should all be practicing on a daily basis, for sure. For sure.
Absolutely. And I can't encourage people enough. I think sometimes people hear those ideas of, we see bumper stickers that say just breathe, or we, constantly are being told to do breathing exercises or meditation. And I think sometimes those start to sound silly to people. And I really encourage people to try and keep an open mind right now. The reason that word just breathe, or we keep encouraging people to learn that skill, is because we know that how we breathe and how we intake and exhale air and oxygen from our body actually does change how we feel, and can help us to feel less agitated, less elevated, more in control. And if we're feeling less agitated, less elevated, and more in control, it stands to reason that we might be able to respond to the situation in a more productive way that we end up feeling good about.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't underestimate any kind of self-care, any kind of giving ourselves love and positive attention, because that goes a long way when we're under stress and having a hard time coping. So yeah, all of those things are really, really important to remember. And just, everybody out there, we validate how difficult this time is, and really, really encourage you to do something for yourself. Learn some new skills. It doesn't have to be a huge undertaking. One little goal of doing some deep breathing a day can go a long way. So for sure, check out, there's so much to go over in this topic because there's so many emotions. We certainly can't do it justice in 15 minutes, but we encourage you to explore all of those feelings and learn what your triggers are, so you have a head start in managing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Don't label them. Don't call it a bad trigger or a good trigger. It just is, and it's okay. We all have them, and we all have different ones, and we react differently. It's not about, clobbering ourselves for having them. It's about accepting that we're human and we all have reactions. And when life itself causes this level of disruption, it's only normal that we might have some sort of reaction. The best gift you can give yourself is figuring out what might be triggering them. How do you know? What clues is your body giving you emotionally and physically? And then how do you get a little bit of a handle on it so that you don't resort to maladaptive ways of coping, and that you are able to kind of handle it more in the way you'd like to. Not to say that it's going to be perfect. None of us are going to be. But this will at least hopefully give you some ideas about how to help yourself in those moments. And I really encourage people to take a look at those handouts to see if they recognize some of their own specific challenges in some of those handouts related to managing reactions.
Exactly. Again, that link is available for you guys at the beginning of the webinar. It's a highlighted link that will take you to um, the place where you can take a look at those handouts and see what fits for your particular needs. That's great. Great discussion. And I think at that point, we're into our summary. When people have been exposed to stress and fear as a result of disaster, their bodies are often on alert and ready for danger. Even relaxing your body can make you feel too vulnerable, especially if you're really heightened and on edge. So in the absence of real danger, these reactions are unnecessary, but we may not be able to turn those reactions off, and they may start to impact your mental health, your mood, and the relationships around you. So in managing reactions, you will learn tools to better manage distressing physical and emotional reactions and how to put them into practice into your daily life to reduce your stress. So you may also learn how to think through any memories that are especially troubling so you can understand them better and master them more successfully. I want to thank you guys for joining us. It was great to be able to bring you these skills. I hope that you join us for the next webinar where we're going to explore skill number 5. Thank you, Heather, and have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Patty.
Bye.